everybody. Listen, happy Friday. Welcome into the building. I'm glad to see you here. It's trending topics on Friday night, and we don't have this much over here, but we're going to deal with it today because the subject has come up. Keke Palmer pretty much kind of released to the public, so to speak, a sort of kind of, right? Her situation that's going on with ex-boyfriend, Sass, the father of her son. And I figured, heavy conversations in me, we don't get along sometimes. I'm allergic to them sometimes, right? But you know what? It's a subject that goes on in this world. We got to deal with it. And we're going to have the conversation tonight. I just ask everybody as we have this conversation, be respectful. Let whoever is speaking have their word and have their opinion about the subject, right? And you can have yours in the comments. So we're going to try to have this conversation. If I think it's going left, I'm going to abort mission. So I'm telling you ahead of time, I'm going to abort mission if I think it's going left. But I feel like we can have a great adult conversation about this situation because it happens too often, too much, and too many homes. And to this day, people still feel ashamed when they're in these situations and they don't want to speak up. And sometimes they won't even speak up to their own family members to whom they are very close to because they're embarrassed. So we're going to get into this, guys. Now, listen, don't forget to hit the like button, and y'all know what I need because I'm about to board this platform. Y'all know what I need. I need a what? I need a choo-choo. All aboard, everybody. For the first time, Friday night trending topics. We got a serious topic to talk about. And we got to use the initials DV. Okay, everybody? Use the initials DV. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and start to board this train up with the people that's waiting on the platform. Hey, Leo.
Hey, Diva.
Hey, Felicia. Choo-choo.
Choo choo. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Hey, in my opinion.
Hey, Diva.
Hey, Raya. Hey, Q. Aces.
Hey, Diva. Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Hey.
you over there looking good, Raya. And
Hey
hey,
y'all.
Julius. Hey.
Hey.
All right.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Bunny. Somebody's giving feedback. Please, everybody, mute. Somebody's giving feedback. I think it's you, Aces. Yes, you, Aces. You got to turn off all your background stuff and keep yourself muted. So everybody just mute their lines really quickly. I'm actually going to do something a little different before we get fully into the story. I want to share a video.
Every 9 seconds,
She did try to tell me something.
a woman
My baby father. He just put a gun out on me and all of that. Why my daughter kid?
is assaulted or beaten in the U.S.
She took that beating the week before.
There is very little here at the Cheverly apartment complex to remind you of the tragic intersection of 3 lives. Calls for help that came too late. Children scarred for life. Tarika Jones, Jaleesa Harris, and Kevin Reynolds left here in the most violent of ways. Their families and communities are still suffering.
These people could be your family or friends. Prince George's Live leads the state of Maryland in these kinds of tragedies. You're about to meet a mom who found out in the most painful way possible that it is not someone else's problem.
I met with LaShawn Harris back in the spring, and we were going to sit down and talk about her daughter. It was pretty tough. And at that time, an interview was not part of the equation. until about 2 months later when she reached back to me. It was right around the time of her daughter Jaleesa's birthday.
Breaking overnight in Prince George's County.
You can see several patrol cars at these apartment complexes.
Trying to get some information on the people involved here.
I just looked at the TV and I said, God, just don't let that be my baby.
Everyone listened when 22-year-old Jaleesa Walls-Harris lifted her voice to sing. She unleashed her range in church, in contests, and in verse. She wanted to be a star and use her talents to help others, particularly her half-sister Tarika Jones. Jaleesa's mom can't seem to shake one of her last conversations with her daughter Jaleesa and Tarika. There was a problem, and Jaleesa's mom was trying to help.
No woman deserves to be hit on. I don't care what. I said, you should never let yourself be beat up. Never. So Jaleesa said, see, I told you, Tarika, my mother wouldn't be going for that. And I was like, is it you? And she's like, no. And she was just quiet.
What do you wish you had said to Tarika in that moment?
I would have just hugged her. And I keep looking at the chair because that's where she was sitting. And I would have kissed her and told her that I love you. You don't deserve this.
You see, Jaleesa's mom had no idea that Tarika, her daughter's half-sister, was in trouble. 26-year-old Tarika Jones was a devoted mother of 3 young girls. By all accounts, she loved cooking meals and telling the world about her sweet babies on social media, a place that did not showcase this man, 30-year-old Kevin Reynolds, the father of her youngest daughter and former boyfriend.
From my understanding, they just had a strange relationship, a on and off relationship.
And according to police documents, it was volatile at times. Tarika told Kevin she wanted to move on. Police think that sent Kevin into a jealous rage.
Let me take you back to a night in February. Tarika called police for help 2 times that night. Kevin was supposed to drop their daughter off, but that handoff quickly turned violent. Here's what Tarika wrote in her witness statement to police. At like 6 p.m., Kevin's supposed to drop our daughter off to me, and when he got here, I went on the opposite side of the car to get my daughter. He rushed at me and grabbed me and threw me to the ground. He continued to pick me up and toss me. After I finally could get to my feet, I ran to my neighbor's house, and he took my phone and threw it because I said I was calling the police. More than an hour later, this happened, and we want to warn you, what you're about to hear is graphic, and some of the language is raw.
Hello?
This is Prince George's County 911. What's the address of your location? Ma'am. Ma'am.
6527. I'm trying to pull out a gun for that.
This is a house or apartment. Ma'am.
It's an apartment.
Everything is chaos out here in this parking lot. Tarika is here, Kevin is here, Kevin's mother is here, even the father of Tarika's other 2 daughters is here. And remember that police statement? Well, Tarika speculates this is why things got out of hand. She wrote, he must have thought that I called my other baby father, so he went to a truck and got a gun. As I seen him running towards me, I run towards my car to call the police. His mother came in the car to grab my phone saying, that's her son, don't call the police.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it doesn't matter you can't sue.
That you Tarika refers to is Kevin's mother.
Kevin is arrested and charged with assaulting Tarika, but she's at a crossroads. She has 3 small girls to raise, and the man who helps her do that is in jail.
Kevin Reynolds, 2B570698.
3 weeks later, Tarika and Kevin are together again for a bond hearing. You're going to hear the actual audio of the courtroom proceedings. It didn't take long. Listen to how Judge Joseph Wright wrestles with and ultimately makes a decision that would change lives forever.
Mr. Reynolds is currently being held in no bond. We're asking that you set a bond, Your Honor, to a $5,000 bond with a 10% option and pretrial release.
I have had occasion to speak to Ms. Jones. She indicates that she is not in fear of him and that she, in fact, wants him home.
The facts read as a fairly violent episode.
And then if I look at his record, destruction, conviction for assault, which is what this case is actually charged as, first-degree assault. Another conviction for assault, a weapons conviction as well. He believes he got off on probation 2 days ago.
Ms. Jones disputes some of the allegations in the statement of charges, Your Honor. I believe that a $5,000 bond is appropriate in this matter.
I disagree. For all the reasons I've said, for public safety, for the record, for the way the facts read, if I'll set a bond, it'll be $20,000.
So that's it. Kevin is out of jail. And Tarika, a young mother of 3, had no idea what had been set in motion.
And it's killing my heart.
So that brings us back to Jaleesa. She and her half-sister Tarika would sometimes go weeks or months without seeing each other. But Tarika reached out to Jaleesa after that parking lot incident with Kevin.
Jaleesa came downstairs one day, all excited, and said, Mom, guess what? Guess who hit me up on Facebook? And I was like, who? And she said, it was Tarika. She said she misses me. And I miss her too, Mom. I was like, okay.
The sisters were supposed to hang out on a Monday night, just 5 days after Kevin got out of jail. Jaleesa's mom was concerned about Tarika's influence on her daughter.
And I just said, just be careful. Just be careful. Guard your heart.
Not just came home and heard gunshots. The ladies there that live in the apartment, they are on the ground. Blood stains all over the place.
It was the shots I heard that woke me up. Bam, bam, bam.
Just after 10 p.m. on March 7th, police say Kevin knocked on the door of Tarika's Chevrolet apartment. He had a gun. He walked in and fired the shots, hitting Tarika and Jaleesa. They died under a kitchen table on the floor. Then Kevin fled, leaving Tarika's 3 girls, one of him, his own daughter, in the next room. It could have been worse. Tarika's grandmother lived there too.
She wasn't prepared for what she was getting ready to see.
No, not at all. She was coming back, from my understanding, from work, and this is what she came home to.
And she was saying, Reed, what have you done to yourself? And Reed was underneath the table, the other girls were on the other side of the table, and they both slumped in like in a knot.
The next day, Kevin's body was found 100 miles away in Hanover County, Virginia, slumped in his getaway car, shoes off, with a gunshot to the head. In just a matter of hours, 3 people are dead. Tarika, Kevin, and Jaleesa, who was caught in the middle.
I raised my kids to steer clear of that, but that in itself wasn't enough.
The Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team in Prince George's County points out all the signs that appear to be on the horizon between Tarika and Kevin. You've got this relationship with escalating tension and violence that Tarika was trying to end, lengthy contact with the justice system, family members who witnessed and knew about the abuse, and that recanted statement from the incident in February. Tarika needed Kevin to help pay the bills.
And we do our level best every day to keep people safe. This is what we are here to do. And in a case like this one where we fail to do that, it is our worst nightmare.
An unforeseen turn of events because Tarika changed her story.
What we knew is what she said. I'm not fearful. I'm okay with him coming home. If this didn't happen the way that the charging document says it happens, and I'm the person to know.
This may be a turning point for the way Prince George's County handles these kinds of cases going forward. State's Attorney Angela Also Brooks admits her office made a mistake.
If there are certain convictions, a certain history, it doesn't matter what the victim says. His or her desire is, we have to make an objective decision that doesn't always include the victim.
What the state's attorney is saying here is important. She's saying we can't always listen to what the victims are saying because sometimes they don't realize how much danger they're in. She's saying we simply can't afford to do that anymore.
It would have saved my daughter's life, who had nothing to do with it. I'm definitely mad, because had he been in jail, my daughter would be here.
We weren't allowed to talk to Judge Joseph Wright about what happened in his courtroom. Dr. Tricia Bent-Goodley is in charge of the team that reviews these cases in Prince George's County.
In many of these cases, that perpetrator has made a decision that this is what's going to happen. And it's just a matter of when they execute it. It really does require us very early on talking about what does it mean to love someone? What does it mean to respect someone? When you don't see that, you need to pay attention to it.
My baby father.
These women have all been caught in the spin cycle of domestic violence.
He just put a gun out on me and all of that.
They say healing starts with knowing what's broken in the first place.
And I just came home and heard gunshots, and my neighbors are calling too.
If I knew how to love, if I knew how to give love, I could have recognized what I was lacking in the relationship.
I just wish that more people will speak up.
I thought he just adored me, where it was actually an obsession with me.
Don't put yourself in that situation, because not only will it affect you and that person, families get destroyed behind this. Look at us.
Whew. Okay. Hold on one second. Let me just make sure I stop this. All right. I showed that for a reason. All right. I hope you understand the reason. We're going to connect the dots here. So you see, she went to the courthouse. You know, she depended upon him to help pay the bills. He got arrested. She went to the courthouse, said, I'm not afraid, set him free. But so many do that because there is a cycle to this thing. It's a real documented cycle. And we'll talk about it. I want to throw some groundwork out here. This one is a little bit shorter, but I think it's important that you see this also before we begin to speak. So bear with me. Give me a few more minutes and let's talk about this. Let's look at this. I think this is the one. Nope, that's not it. Okay, there it is.
And I don't have nothing anymore. I don't have fame. I don't have money. After the Super Bowls is probably the worst time I ever had. It's when I was the loneliest, when I was the most depressed. It's usually when the domestic violence was fueled.
In the late 80s, Vance Johnson was known for his brash personality as a member of the Broncos' famed Three Amigos, Denver's talented young receiving corps.
Playing football and being pretty much successful, you could do what you want to do and not worry about people wondering what kind of person is he, you know.
He was also known to the women in his life, the Broncos, and local law enforcement as a man who beat women, long before the Ray Rice elevator video provoked a public outcry.
When I watched Ray hit his wife on that television screen, I thought about how fast my career would have ended if someone would have had a camera in my house when I was being abusive to my wife at the time.
What would cause you to get so angry?
I was the one that all these ladies, women wanted to talk to and date. And so how dare someone challenge that? And that was pretty much all it took for me to get angry and being jealous.
It was jealousy, Johnson says, that caused him to fly into a rage when he thought his first wife, Angela, had cheated on him with a teammate.
I ended up pushing her against a closet door, knocked her out. I carried her to the bathroom and I literally put my hand in the toilet and started flipping the water out of there to get in her face.
Johnson says the pain he inflicted on women didn't always cause physical harm, as he recalled an argument with his second wife.
I was abusive in so many different ways. I tore up things and I took a golf club to her vehicle and just beat the crap out of it, just to see the pain in her eyes and saw how emotionally she was just so damaged and so torn. I feel like I don't even deserve to have a good life now.
Why?
because of all the pain that I caused, all the damage.
What do you feel?
Really ashamed, but willing for people to call me a wife beater and an animal, just so I can let people know that the problem with domestic violence is real.
Yeah, appreciate your writing too. Thank you.
Johnson says he witnessed his father beat his mother, something he recounted in his memoir published during his playing days. But Johnson wouldn't get into any details with us, saying his parents are still married and that the abuse has since stopped. When asked to comment on Johnson's recollections, Johnson's parents declined.
What you saw is what you know. I was actually the same exact person, and even worse, because here I am, this celebrity, so I felt like I was entitled.
In his 7th NFL season, after local media reported police were summoned to Johnson's residence numerous times for domestic disputes, Johnson was arrested in 1991 after ramming his car into an estranged wife's vehicle.
What did the Broncos do when they knew you had this issue?
I remember going into Dan Reeves' office and him asking me, there's been a lot of things going on, Mr. Johnson, with this domestic stuff. Really need to get some help, son. So if there's anything that we can offer, I would just say, I'm fine, coach. It's something that I'm dealing with, but there's not a problem.
And that would be enough for him?
Yeah, that would be enough for him.
Reeves told Outside the Lines he doesn't recall having any conversations with Johnson about his abusive behavior. Johnson pleaded guilty to a charge of criminal mischief and was sentenced to a week in jail and a year of probation. He was also ordered to attend domestic violence counseling sessions.
They were so hard for me. There were so many arguments with my counselor. And I would get up and I would leave, but then I would go back in and listen again.
I saw a man who really would like to have a real relationship and who was struggling mightily to figure out how to do that.
Michael Lindsay, a psychotherapist who specialized in working with violent offenders, was Johnson's counselor before he retired. Johnson granted permission for Lindsay to talk with us about their sessions.
Just couldn't afford to lose anymore. And at the moment you can't afford to lose anything more, chaos, death, or change. Those are your choices.
Johnson continued to see Lindsay for about 5 years.
If you just go in with an open mind and allow everything that's inside of you as a child to come out, you'll find where the problem was. And that's when you can start healing. Left and walked away from an opportunity to do some stuff for the Broncos.
Johnson says he hasn't physically abused a woman in 2 decades. A search of criminal records in the areas where he's lived since then reveal no charges of domestic abuse against him.
What should people think of you?
He was a batterer. He was abusive. He was not a nice person. He tried to screw his whole life up. He hurt a lot of people. And he's here now to say, look what I did to my life. Don't do that to yours.
All right. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to stop this. Okay. Whew. All right. So I hope y'all see I'm trying to make a connection here, showing you both sides. We got an abuser that spoke, right? We saw how one a female couldn't break out of the cycle and how it impacted the entire family. Now, as we speak, I want y'all to make these connections with, the Kiki story, which I'm about to bring up right now. Just give me a minute of me pulling my stuff together here, right? Because there's more sides to the story and the situation. And it's a pathological kind of road, so to speak, as to how you develop to become the person that you are. And you see how I didn't pull the court documents because I really, thank you, Brown Eyes, because I really don't even want to focus primarily on Kiki, because this is bigger than Kiki. And that's why I added these stories in here. This is bigger than Kiki, and it impacts a lot of people. In that first video I showed, they said every 9 seconds, Every 9 seconds. So while we're doing this video, just count up the numbers. They said every 9 seconds, this is happening to somebody. I'm sorry your backstage is full. Let me just share screen really quickly. Now, I'm not going to go through this, but I will attach this to the description of this video, okay? So there's 4 stages of the cycle of abuse, from tension to calm and back. And I'm throwing this information out here so we can think about it as we're going through this conversation. They said the cycle of abuse often goes through 4 main stages: tension, incident, reconciliation, and calm. And what we see a lot is it barely maybe gets to this calm. It goes from this reconciliation back to tension, back to incident, and it goes around and around and around again. Some people get to the calm and some people get out. And we're praying that more people get out. So the definition of abuse is any and every action that has the intention to exert control or hurt another being. Abuse is often about establishing and demonstrating power and control over someone else. It can be physical, sexual, verbal, financial, or psychological, right? And then they said here the stages is tension building, incident of violence, reconciliation, and calm. The stages don't necessarily look the same for everyone, and they don't apply. Abusive behaviors take a break every now and then. Instead, the model may help to illustrate how abusive behaviors and relationships can change and repeat over time, right? So tension building. During tension stage, the abusive partner may begin to display the signs of abuse and behaviors that slowly increase intensely and frequency, okay? And they talk about some stresses, but what happens is there's emotional outbursts, irritability, impatience, shortness of a temper, right? Then you can have the incident, and it could be intimidation, threats of violence, breaking of things in the home, insults, name calling, and other verbal violence, physical violence, sexual violence, shaming and blaming. We saw that in a Kiki situation, right? With the event she went to, humiliation, manipulation tactics, social isolation, financial abuse, emotional abandonment. Then they reconcile because they come back and they bomb you. They love bomb you. Tell you, I'm sorry. I lost it that moment. I'm going to do better. They bring you flowers, give you gifts, beg you. And then that's when the person usually let them back in. Then they said there's a calm stage where it shifts for the abuse. I'm sorry. Where, it shifts. They say, I'm sorry, but it's all because of so-and-so and so-and-so. So they start to blame it on you. They sorry, but they blame it on you. Then they try to justify their behavior. Then they gaslight you. It wasn't really that big of a deal. And then you start back from 1 again. All right. So I just wanted to add that in there. And now let me share screen one more time, and then we'll get to talking about this Keke situation. So Kiki mom spoke out. Okay. And she was granted her temporary restraining order against Darius. Here's some food for thought here. And remember, we're adults, let's have this conversation. Some food for thought here is that pretty much darn near when she met him, he was putting hands on her. Think about that. You meet somebody, that's how your relationship starts out, right? And then not only do you stay, but you end up having this man's child. This wasn't the first incident. She talks about 2 incidents, right, that happened to her. And luckily for her, she had the footage. Now, another concerning thing is her mother. Her mother seems to have been well aware of this situation. And for whatever reason, she feels that, she's putting more blame on his brother than she is on Darius. Let's just listen. Oh, okay, hold on one second, guys, because it went to another screen.
To post on his Twitter the ridiculous stuff that he's posting when he knew his brother was abusive. I went to Sharona's over a year ago and told him that his brother was abusive to my daughter. And he said, well, I used to be like that too. What? So now he's posting on Twitter like he's this special guy, when we know he's the biggest fuck boy in Hollywood. He's disrespectful to women, just like his little brother. He taught his brother how to be abusive. So he don't get to act like he's this special guy. No, you're a fuck boy and you're a part of the problem. Look, I've never done anything like this. I've been in this business for 22 years. I've seen a lot of stuff.
Okay. So there's many stories running out there. Now Darius and his crew, they're saying that, you know, Kiki is a liar. She's being manipulative. You got her mom that does a whole video, says she rarely talks, but instead of her saying one word about Darius, she's talking about the brother, and the brother taught him, but she doesn't say anything about the man who physically put his hands on her daughter. This is a lot. It's a whole lot. Leo, your thoughts?
Okay, so what's the question is what I'm asking. Like, what's the premise that I'm answering to?
Yeah, sure. Just the whole situation on DV. You can talk from the standpoint of the whole Kiki situation. You can talk from the standpoint of general. You can talk about the standpoint of, you know, just generic, have nothing to do with Kiki, about how sometimes, well, a lot of times, because we saw in my first story where the women stay and then they end up protecting the abuser because they're in that cycle.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna go general. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
Okay.
general.
That's fine.
So in general, as a person who has experienced DV, not physical, but psychological and mental, and I was so late in life when it had happened, I was not aware, right? I was not aware. It's a slow, they love bomb you at first. So it's a slow creeping thing. So when it first happened, I might have been maybe 6 or 7 months in, you know, everything was good, that I realized he was emotionally, I said, insecure, right? So I was thinking talk therapy, you know, this is not something that's necessary for you to do, but it escalated until it came to a threat of violence, even though he did not ever put his hands on me, because I already let him know that would be unacceptable. But it creeps on you, especially if you've never been treated that way, especially if you've never seen it before, and especially if you're just not looking for it. It just shows up, and you don't know that and it is definitely a cycle, because when it's addressed, it will calm down. You know, then they love bomb you again, and then there go the verbal words and the name calling and the psychological abuse and the screaming and ranting. When I read that about the complaint, how he did that to her, it took me back. I was triggered because the same thing happened to me as well. And I can say for her, the fact that she left within 2 years is pretty good, because a lot of people stay a long time. And I will say this as well, in the general stats, the leaving is not the issue. It's after you leave where the problem comes in, where the situation can become even more dangerous than it was when you was with this person, because either be it male or female, whomever is the one that's doing the DV, they feel more threatened when you leave because they're no longer in control, and they feel as though they no longer have the ability to warp your mind and to mentally beat you down and gaslight you. So it can get worse before it can get better. My question, and I'm going to say this very transparently, even when I figured something was wrong and I separated from this person, the reconciliation part was a few months, and I took that person back. So, and eventually when I seen the cycle that it would be continued, and it didn't take long, you know, it might have been 6 or 7 months after that, I finally did, you know, let that person go. And then they began to stalk me for a year. Until I had to get others involved to let this person know that, look, it's over and you really need to leave me alone. It still didn't even end there. Even still, he still may call my job even now and again, even to this day, and it's been 10 years.
Ooh.
So it is unfortunate that you can go through this situation. So I don't want people to feel like it can't happen. It happens to all people, all races, all socioeconomic status. She herself, Keke Palmer, is a very important and iconic person in our culture, and it happened to her. And it can happen in any situation. And I think the most important thing that I can say for those who have been through this situation or show up and it's there, I'm thinking that Keke didn't tell her mother at first, but she eventually did. The best disinfectant is sunlight. People who are abusers rely on silence. They rely on shame of the other person to be able to perpetuate these particular types of incidences until it evolves into crimes. You have to say something. You have to expose them. You have to. You got to put all your cards on the table. That is the easiest way to get out of it. I know that from my own personal experience. It is better to speak about it, to talk about it. Tell people. Tell the people that you know that really love you and have your best interest.
Yeah.
And do it early and soon. If something ain't right, if he start raising his voice and acting crazy, tell somebody. Talk about it. Tell people. Have them rally around you. And it's really hard because Keke told the people to mind their business because this is her relationship, right? And so people do make that decision, but that's not the right decision. When you start shutting people out because they got too much to say, you might need to think again and think differently because you yourself know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, as I was reading up on this, though, that's what they do. They go through this protecting the abuser.
They do. They do.
Yeah, I pulled up so much information, it almost became very overwhelming. And I listened to video after video after video where they were invested in protecting this person that was doing some horrific things to them. You see, this girl, she went to court and said, I'm not afraid of him.
And well, you know what, though? And when I think about it, before I brought others in, right, because it was happening and nobody knew that it was happening. And one thing I had to weigh, and maybe Keke had to weigh this too, whether or not she was completely done with him. Because from what I can see, she brought in the big guns when she put in her declaration. When she put in her declaration into the courts, she had her ish together, which means she thought about it before. She didn't want to drop the hammer down on her baby daddy, but he finally put her in a position where she had to. And I kind of went through that too, because I have brothers and I have men that my daddy shell shocked from the Vietnam War, because that ain't what you want. So I really had to think about whether or not I wanted to involve these people in what was going on, because it could definitely go left. Like really bad in the very wrong way. So before I really wanted to enter it into bringing them into the situation, I had to know that I was serious about leaving him alone and I was going to go my separate way. And once I was serious about that, and it didn't take long, like I was only in a relationship with him for like 2.5 years. So it didn't take that long. But once I was serious about sending him those papers that it was over, and I brought my brothers in, at least physically, he stayed out my sphere. So, I had to have this conversation or this thought process with myself before I involved them. Was I really, really done? Because I could not afford for them to get involved, and I still keep being involved with him, and they are physically keeping him away from me. You understand what I'm saying? It could escalate where somebody could seriously get hurt.
Yeah. Whew. Leo, thank you for sharing. I do appreciate you for sharing your own personal experience, because this thing is real. M. Smith, thank you so much for the super chat. Black women experience DV more than any other race. I think a feeling of being undervalued by society as a whole plays a part. A strong possibility. Yes. Felicia, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Leo, for sharing. Thank you, Diva, for all of the data and the footage that you shared with the panelists and the chat.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting it, so I'm here privately grieving with Jaleesa's mother.
Mm.
So Jaleesa gets a Facebook message. Hey, sis, miss you. Why don't you? I'd love to see you. She wants to see her sister. She goes to spend time with her. She probably didn't even mention how serious the matter was, because in the court, she said, no, what I said was not necessarily what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at her handwritten statement, this wasn't something somebody else typed up. This was something that she had written against her boyfriend. But she also wrote a lot of the things that she didn't say weren't true.
Mm.
And according to the story, this was 5 days afterwards. And she has her sister in the car. We're supposed to be hanging out. And her mom, when she's sitting in that chair, she looked like, why didn't I stop her? Why didn't I have another suggestion? What could I have done differently?
Mm-hmm.
My heart is breaking for this mother tonight. I know there's little girls involved. And Tarika's grandmother, God knows what she had to deal with. But Jaleesa's mother, she said, go be a good sister and go spend some time with her. And I want to speak a little bit to the folks who are listening, who are hearing me. I really care for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the data. It says 1 in 3 men and women will be or are victims of DV.
Mm.
So right now, that means 100 of us in this conversation are active victims. We have to do better for ourselves. I'm not asking you to stand up for the community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the last one that's going to tell you run out there and be with your sister and go help your neighbor. I'm not that one. I don't think Black girls need to be superheroes, and I don't think Black women need to be a storm. No. I think a phone call is good. Stay in your safe space. Be a good friend, but stay in a safe space. Because all too often, women and men make decisions to go back, to stay involved, to deny, and then your life is gone. You're not here no more. And it wasn't your relationship, wasn't your court case, it wasn't your argument. And I know I'm in that first one because that was so impactful to me. His mother was out there talking about don't call the police. All of these mixed messages. And I, the person who was listening to this report, I'm supposed to believe this was about some $2 and maybe you were paying a cell phone bill. That's where we are. Is that where we are as a community? So the one of the baby daddies was out there, the mama's out there, he's out there, she's out there. No one was protecting the children. Nobody. So I'm not going to say stand with the community, go out there and protest. No. Take good care of you and your children. Stay safe.
Whew. Felicia, thank you for that. Appreciate you. Appreciate your comments. I appreciate everybody's comments. In my opinion, your thoughts.
Okay, so of course DV is not I already told you before, Diva, that I had to grow up in a DV situation as the child. And I feel like the parent sometimes doesn't realize how much it affects the kids that are involved when you stay in a DV situation. I found myself when I got older blaming myself for being born because I was like, maybe if I hadn't been born, my mama wouldn't stay. It's hard to see anybody getting kicked, beat, thrown down steps, having to cover their face with a lot of makeup to cover the bruises and scars and the broken bones. It's even rougher to know that you are the product of this pain. And so what I'm asking people is, if you find that you're in this situation, that's not love. You deserve better than that. I don't care how hard it is. There are shelters that can help with DV. There are places you can call that will protect you, because as much as we want to say those protection orders are valid and is protecting you, at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper. And I've seen so many people get the protective order and it, ultimately made this person even rougher. So I'm begging you, if you're going through it, leave it. Don't bring babies in the world and have your kids blaming themselves for it. Don't do that to your children. They deserve better than that. They deserve to be loved and protected. I'm praying for Kiki. I'm praying for this mom. I just feel like sometimes we don't look at these kids, and that's the worst part, to sit here and have a kid suffer and feel bad for being here because this is happening to you.
In my opinion, thank you. I appreciate you for sharing. I want to add this too. I appreciate the ex-football player who told his story and didn't push the blame off on anyone. He told his story, and I appreciate it. And for 2 decades, So, I think with anything, if you want help, you can get help, but you got to want it. You got to want it. And he wanted the help. And I appreciate him for sharing his truth and not trying to sugarcoat what he did to the females in his life. He told the truth. E, your thoughts?
Well, hello, Diva. How are you?
Hey.
I have a few things. In my opinion, the reason Kiki's mom is blaming the older brother is for modeling poor behavior to Darius. And in my mind, because within the system of patriarchy, men teach younger men how to be predators. Traditionally, men validate younger men for being cheaters, getting over on not only women and children, but also the government. Men affirm other men who are disrespectful, uncooperative, and uneducated. Make no qualms about it. And Kiki's mom, I believe, was also trying to humanize Darius in that moment, even if she didn't intend to, because she alluded to the fact that it's not all Darius's fault. It's learned behavior. He didn't just learn to be this way. He's modeling his older brother, which means that there are probably some women out there who can tell some stories about Darius's older brother. And so that's what I got from that. Because as far as I'm concerned, Darius's brother is leading the charge with this Kiki is the problem narrative, because it's right out of the F-Boy handbook from 1302 BC. Whenever caught red-handed, reverse uno and draw four. Blame the woman, because not only will other men get on code and support you, but it's a lot of women who do not like other women. And the way that history has shown us, the way that these things crumble, it's the Black woman's fault. Now figure that out. So when you played that first video, because I was late to the train today, but when I got on, I saw the video of the people down at the courthouse. And when that lady said on the news, we cannot listen, because they said, I think they're talking about changing the laws because the judge couldn't keep them in there or something to that effect. We cannot listen to victims, I heard her say, who say, I'm not afraid and it's okay. And I feel more comfortable with him coming back and I changed my mind and let him out. When I heard the lady say that, I felt her on that, because these women are too silly and too penismatized and too desperate to realize that it's only 19 million Black men in the United States. Just 19 million. But out of that 19 million, 13.2 million of them are liars, cheaters, underemployed, and predators. So every time we have these conversations, you can bet your car insurance payment that it's Auntie Pygmisha or grandmother of all pygmies in the chat that will come forward and say, rather than acknowledge the danger that Black women face by being in close proximity to some Black men, they flip it and say, well, what about the women who hit men? Oh, you mean the ones who can't talk or move and down at the cemetery? Those are the women you're talking about? Okay. Black women lead the number of reported cases for HIV, and we're damn sure not infecting ourselves. So yet, you can go back through Diva's videos and watch the live replay. And it's somebody who always wants to brag about how good their husband is and how great their father is, and let everybody know they have a Black son. They always do this when we have these types of conversations. And I love to be the one to break it to you. But your daddy cheated on your mama, but she just didn't tell nobody. Your husband ain't that good either. Now, ask me how I know. I know because when we're talking about women who are victims and survivors, and every 9 seconds being traumatized by somebody's father, somebody's grandfather, uncle, brother, cousin, son, whatever, what kind of fool do you look like to stand up and say, my daddy was a good man? It makes no sense. Nobody gives a damn about your raggedy Black daddy. We're talking about women right now. This is where the term male worship comes from. Women who are so caught up in what a man could be and the illusion of who you think your sons are and who your father and grandfather was that you can't even realize you're speaking against your own interests in this moment. These men who are victimizing women every 9 seconds belong to somebody. They're in somebody's family. Okay. So these men are black men who, and some of them, because I know other races do it, but I'm black, so I'm talking about black men right now. These, when you climb into this chat and claim you're trying to tell both sides of the story and you want to advocate for black men, go do that when we're talking about Russell Wilson or somebody. I don't want to hear that right now. I'm tired of it. And the people down at 911 are tired of it too. Police are tired of coming to your house to pick up these men just for you to go down to the courthouse and change your story. Stop wasting tax dollars. When the law comes and pick up these men, let the judge keep them in there. Throw away the keys and let them rot. Okay? Because you put these judges and these lawyers and these prosecutors and all, you put them through all this drama. Oh no, well, I will feel more comfortable, let him out. I changed my mind. I don't feel like I'm in any danger. And then they let you out and then you don't wake up again. Okay, and then we got to plan your funeral. So stop wasting time and stop advocating for people who are not advocating for you.
Thank you, E. Brandon, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Diva, the abuser's mom yelled, "Don't call the police on my son." Yes, she did. It's triggering. Yeah. 10 years ago, my sister boyfriend put her in the ICU. Her drawer broken in 2 places. Don't say nothing, Brandon. I was told. Mm. Mm.
I see we have godmother of all the pick-me's in the chat, but this ain't my channel. So Diva, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, okay. Bunny, your thoughts?
Hi. So, excuse my loud background, but I just wanted to speak on the fact that, unfortunately, it's getting worse. It's getting worse with the domestic violence, even like the femicide, especially the Black femicide. And it's like we do have to get to a point where we gotta call the cops. Like that's it. Like no questions asked because, you know, for the most part, people are set in their ways after a certain age. In a lot of these cases, the ages of the people, it's the ages of the men, especially. Like sometimes, like in that story, the girl was, I think she was 22 or 27, and the guy was 30. So like he's well into who he is as a person. And it's like when someone shows you who they are, believe it. Like I've been heavily triggered by Kiki's situation because I've been in 2 situations, but luckily I had friends and I had to just realize it's not gonna work out because, you know, like people had to really shake me up and say, if you don't get out, he's going to, you're gonna be dead in this apartment. Excuse me for and alive in this apartment. So in your apartment, we're gonna have to find you in your apartment. And that is like my mom's worst fear. So like she's always trying to drill into me like if as soon as he hits you, call the police. Or if he's getting close or raises his voice, call the police. And I had that instance happen to me 2 years ago to the point where he was trying to throw my puppy out the window. So I had to call the police and just, you know, do what I had to do, get my protection order. But yeah, like I think in my opinion said, it's just a piece of paper. And if you get the 90, like in New York, they give you the 90 day paper. You got to keep going every 90 days to the point where sometimes you might get tired and you try to escalate it. And because they tell you have to keep, I think you have to go like 4 or 5 times before you can escalate the order of protection to a restraining order. And like that gets tiring. But it's like, it's unfortunately things we have to do as women. And it's so sad that it's just like, I just hate that especially with Black women, we're blamed. It's like, well, what did she do? It shouldn't be what did she do. It should be men don't hit women. And then also people say like, oh, my brother would never hit anybody. My father would never hit anybody. My insert male relative or friend, right? Or male I know. They always insert male, would never do that, but they watch their friends do it. They watch their family members do it and don't tell them to stop. Like it's to the point where it's like the women are teaching their men, and we're also teaching each other how to protect ourselves, but the men are not holding the other men accountable, because the men go unchecked by other men. They don't face any consequences unless it's the law. Those are the only men that are you know if they feel like your case is that important, if they feel like they want to save you, because sometimes you call the cops about a domestic violence situation you're in, and they'll just tell them like, oh, just leave the house. They're coming back tomorrow, even if you don't want them there. You're like, I don't want him to come back here ever again. They're like, well, we can only tell him to leave today. You're still in danger, because you know, once Friday turns into Saturday he's coming back banging down your door. So it's like it's not enough protection. And it's just like sometimes you just feel so helpless. But I'm so glad Kiki has the resources to get out of her situation. Not most of us aren't as blessed and lucky to have the same resources to get, if we're in that situation, to get out sooner. But I'm glad that she documented it. She had cameras in her house. And like you said in your earlier video diva, we gotta start putting cameras in our house.
Yeah.
But it's insane. Like this whole situation is triggering, and I wish all the women and all the people who could possibly go through this or in this situation or might feel like they're headed down that road with their partner to be careful and just leave, walk away, call the police, do what you can, because we're all we have and no one's coming to save us.
Ooh, nobody's coming to save us. Ooh. Thank you, Bunny. Aces, you're up.
It's heartbreaking, the situation reminds me of the Malcolm X quote about Black women being the most unprotected and neglected demographic in the US. And Kiki has been in the business for, 20 plus years. She is talented, she's beautiful, and my heart it breaks for her. I was praying for her last night, and like, Bunny said, I'm glad that she has the resources. I'm really glad that she had those cameras up. But yeah, I want so much more for her. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of DV as a child. My mother, just so many of my family members went through that. And there's no excuse for it. It's heartbreaking. And it's like, I don't know. I really feel like the laws and the policies need to change to hold these men accountable, because it's inexcusable. But I'm glad that she's doing what she needs to do to protect herself, to protect her son. Because when we found out the details, this man does not need to be anywhere near his son until he gets some serious help, and I mean serious help.
I'll say this. I feel like when you're dealing with a man who has nothing,
yes,
and you have something,
Mhm.
that's almost one recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
But I will give this to people. If you're talking to someone and y'all just in the beginning stages, and everything you do is something negative slips out their mouths, that's not a slip.
Right. It's a red flag for sure.
It's a red flag. Look and don't ever turn back. Brown Eyes, I appreciate you. Oh my God, I really do. Thank you so much. You're my favorite YouTuber. Keep up the good work. Brown Eyes, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. Thank you. Sandy 2 Cents, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. The code a lot of these men are co-signing is check your it is check your B. You're right. And something you are that might be okay. You are correct, because that's why Timberland said muzzle her. He told Justin Timberlake, you should have muzzled Britney. It's no different than what you saying right here. You should have checked that B. Muzzle her. You got her out here telling our business. Now, I used to be a big time watcher. Thank you everybody for the generous super chats. I used to be a big time watcher of Lifetime. And Lifetime does a lot of true stories. There was this true story, and I'm coming to you. I think I'm up to, my screen shifted a little bit. I think I'm coming to you next, Q. Give me a minute. There was this true story, the Tracy Thurman story. When I tell you this story was horrific, but again, when y'all talk about a piece of paper, and this is based on a true story, it's old, from 1989. If you can Google it and see it somewhere, and I'm gonna tell you a brief story of it. Her husband was abusive. I think it was the husband. He was abusive, right? She suffered severe DV. She got a restraining order. The boyfriend, husband, whatever, he came over in spite of the restraining order, called her out the house. He stomped on her and stomped on her and stomped on her with like a Timberland boots or something like that on. The cops stood there and watched. And why did he watch? Because he didn't want to get involved, because he was like 2 or 3 days away from retirement. I promise y'all, this is a true story. She was so severely disabled after this situation. She sued the police department. I can't remember how much she got at that time, but who cares? I think she had to spend like a year and change in the hospital. Her daughter, she couldn't even use one side of her body. Her daughter didn't even want to be around her anymore because the mother was pretty much disabled and had a limp and all of that. And the court records showed how the last few stomps, when the police was already there, is what triggered her whole being paralyzed. It's a horrific story. The cops stood there and watched. They watched the man just stomp her and stomp her and stomp her. I don't know if anybody saw that story. Crazy, very sad.
I saw it. I remember the actress was Nancy McKinnon from The Facts of Life.
Yes.
And yeah, it was horrific. If any time cops are so trigger happy, and I'm not asking, I'm not advocating him pulling out a pop, but he could have at least tased him. He could have handcuffed him. He could have called for backup. He was a coward.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, very sad. And based on a true story. Yep. I remember that. Cop took the knife and put it in the trunk and just stood there. Yep. So she stabbed him at first. So she owed $2.3 million. They settled for 1.9. And she should have got more than that. It was
a whole lot more. A whole lot more.
No money. That's
no
money.
money. K and J, thank you so much for the super chat. Truly appreciate you. Truly appreciate you. Q, you're up.
Hey, y'all. You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Like, in my opinion, I'm the daughter of a woman who was horrifically abused. It is a miracle that my mother's alive.
Wow.
My father would commit DV on her, even in public places, and no one would help her. Like in the grocery store, for example. Now, I'm too young to remember some of this, and sometimes I wonder if it's just because I was so young, or if it's my brain has protected me over the years, because the brain can do that.
Yep.
But people would just walk by. I mean, he would, I don't even, I just do horrendous things can you imagine just being in the grocery store and seeing that, and people would just walk by. The reason why I step in to this day when I see women in danger. There was this one time, and she's told me about this herself, and my grandmother's told me some stories too. Probably things that they should not have told me because it was very traumatizing, is very traumatizing to know. But there is this one time that she told me that she went to her local precinct and she asked them to please put her in a cell. She begged them that they would please put her in a cell to keep her safe. She just wanted to know if they could lock her up to please keep her safe, and they wouldn't do it. This was in the late 70s going into the 80s, so there were not a bunch of programs and stuff like how they have now. There weren't a bunch of safe havens, especially in a small town where she was. They also wouldn't lock him up when she would call the police. During that time, you had to almost be in a situation where the man would have to be seen beating you. And based on this story that y'all just shared about this movie, it looked like sometimes that didn't even help. But I'm grateful that my mother did leave. And I stayed a lot with my grandmother. Like she would take me to my grandmother's house. But she eventually left. Now here is the other terrible part to this story. The next woman that he got with some years later, he did the same thing, just like the video you started us out with. And he, did this to several wives that he had. But the next woman that he did this to after my mother, she did not survive. He was unalived as a result of the injuries sustained. And, I'm just going to say this, she was a white woman too. So he went straight to jail, prison. He went to prison for second-degree manslaughter as a result of what happened there. I will say that as a result of that, it has absolutely shaped the way I approach issues like this, the way I show up for people in situations like this, the grace that I have for women who have gone through this. And it also, my mom also explicitly taught me what to look for to notice an angry man. She would tell me that, even like when I started dating and stuff, like she always would, every now and then, especially when What's Love Got to Do With It came out, she wanted to watch that. She wanted me to watch that with her, and also when I was in high school and college and, starting to date as a young lady and stuff, she would tell me signs to know if someone is an angry man, and that's not somebody you would want to be with. So like if you're driving in the car and somebody cuts off, if he is in a rage, if he's mad because of this, or he's snapping off because you were late or something like that, she would say those are signs. She didn't use the language red flag, but those are signs of somebody who might potentially hurt you because those reactions don't match the situation. So when I saw you sharing about the part about I forget what it was called, whatever that first sign was about just the excessive anger and stuff like that. Oh, wow. My mama was teaching me that. She didn't have the language for it, but she was using her life to, thank you, CG. She was using her life to teach me. And I'm telling you, Diva, I have put myself in situations that I probably should not have on behalf of women I didn't even know. Because I'm not going to be out and see a woman being put hands on and I not do anything because I see my mama. Last thing, I was downtown Chicago and I saw this young lady and this man was just snatching her up and she had a baby, like a baby. You know how mamas have the carrier on one arm?
Mm-hmm.
He was holding a baby and he just snatching her and everything. And this is at a train station, so it's people everywhere. None of the men were doing anything. And so I walk up, I didn't say anything, I just stood in front of her.
Mm.
I whispered to her, I was like, "You okay?" And she like was nodding her head. I was like, I'm gonna be with you. And I didn't do anything, but I just stood in front of her and he was like, "Bro, this ain't got nothing to do with you, bro," just talking ignorant. And he was, gone. I like, don't come up on me. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I just stood there and eventually he like walked off. I don't know. I didn't stay that much longer after, maybe 5-ish minutes, but I did notice that there are people here. There are people here and nobody did anything. And I don't know, maybe that wasn't smart of me, but when I think about the fact that people would see this man knocking my mama's head upside the meat thing, where the meat is, and knocking her into shelves and didn't do nothing. I may not win the fight, but I'm not going to stand by and watch a woman be put in danger because of what happened to my mama. So he just gonna have to try to get two of us.
Ooh. Q, I'm gonna pray for you. I understand your compassion for this. That's pretty scary. And ooh, and it's also scary that people won't step in and help. And then, as you was talking, it just remind me, I want to say, what's her name? Was it Gabby Petito? What her name was? But I also know is you can't force. I don't know. I just feel like, the cops, I'm sure they're kicking themselves for not making a different decision that day too with her. Right? Because I think they did. I thought they saw bruises on her. But either way, it's sad. It's very sad. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you for sharing your story. I appreciate everybody for sharing your story. I know it's not easy. Yeah, interfering can be scary. Yes, it can. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Didon, your thoughts?
Hey everybody.
Hey.
I want to thank everybody for sharing literally your testimonies tonight and giving us some wisdom um, about what's happening literally and the things that are working and things that are not working.
Mm-hmm.
This is my worst fear in life.
Mm.
Me being a co-parent of a daughter, letting her go and her ending up in a relationship with a man who does this to her.
Mm-hmm.
And people wonder why I am so overprotective of her. They wonder why I track her. They wonder why I need to know who her friends are, the boys that are interested in her, who she's texting, DMing, because this starts at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said it before, even if a male doesn't have a father in his life,
Mm-hmm.
there is somebody that he's looking at
Mm-hmm.
and pattern himself off of,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is good or bad. He's
Mm.
going to pattern himself off of that male. So that's why I am down her back about any and everything. Who are you talking to? be open with me, be honest with me, talk to your dad. If you can't talk to me, talk to your mom. Keep open communication with us. And I tell her all the time, when you think about getting married, I'm going to know who this N is. I'm going to know who his dad is. I'm going to know what his lineage is, because I'm going to know what's happening in that family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary idea to let my daughter go.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary because I just don't want her to end up in a situation like this, because I'm going to jail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts behind it. I'm going to be locked up, because the minute you even think about raising your hand, that's the end of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just scary. It's a scary thought to put in for me. I have what I consider to have good role models. My parents have been married 45 years. My grandparents have been married 67 years.
Mm.
And to even hear my mother and father argue, we always come to my mother's defense.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has 3 sons, and we always come to my mom's defense.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a small argument over who's bringing the groceries in the house, and we always come to my mom's defense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if how they raised us, but my mom always told us, you open doors for women, you just respect women, you uphold women, you honor women, you respect women, you
Mm-hmm.
cherish women. And it just so happened that me and my brothers all had daughters.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have any sisters. My mom never had any girls, and all of
Mm-hmm.
us coincidentally had daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us are so overprotective over our girls, the
Mm-hmm.
same way we're overprotective over our mother and our grandmother. And to hear this Kiki story, you know, you gotta be overprotective. Keep the cameras up. Put the cameras in your dorm room.
Mm.
Put
Mm.
the cameras in your car.
Uh-huh. Ooh, you giving
You
good
know,
information. Okay.
you have to protect yourselves from these ends out here, because you're going out drinking, you're
Mm-hmm.
going out partying.
Mm-hmm.
They lose control. We lose control. You put yourselves in sometimes these situations that you don't think could harm you, but they just may. Allow somebody to track your phone, even if you don't want your parents to track you. Have your
Mm.
friends, track you. You don't want somebody to abduct you.
Yeah.
All of these things. I have these type of talks with my daughter all the time. The minute you don't want to allow your dad to track you, first of all, I'm not going to pay your cell phone bill, but allow your friends to track you, track each other. You
Yeah.
have to keep yourself safe,
Ooh.
because these ends don't care about you. They only care about one thing, and that's what they can get from you.
Mm.
And then once they get that, they moving on to the next one.
Mm. Mm.
So I just, the conversation is good tonight, and that's why I appreciate it so much. To the people in the comments, take heed, listen to the wisdom that's that was spoken tonight. It's you just have to take heed to this, because it's so important. It's so overwhelming to see. The police aren't protecting the women. It depends on what type of community you live in. It takes them 10 minutes to get to your houses sometimes.
Yeah.
And by that time, you could end up unalived.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what? You know, you don't want to put yourselves in these predicaments. And I don't want to say put yourself, that's a strong phrase to use, but
well, I know, but we know what you mean. We
you
know what you
know,
mean.
yeah,
Yes.
but it's hard because sometimes you love this end,
Mm-hmm.
but he's just no good.
Mm-hmm.
And you know he's no good.
We all been there. We knew he wasn't no good. That's facts. We're talking facts. Come on.
You know he's no good.
Mm-hmm.
Get away.
Mm.
Go back to your parents' house.
Yes.
Go to a girlfriend's house. Go to your sibling's house. Go somewhere. Get away from this Negro. He is no good to you. You don't want to end up with knots in your head, with your lip bust open. The peen is not worth it.
Come on.
It's not worth it.
Right.
Like in my opinion said, what are your children? What are you teaching the next generation?
Mm-hmm.
Are you teaching them that this is okay? It's not okay. It's not what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Love does not hurt.
Ooh.
Corinthians said love is patient, it's kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it does not keep record of wrong. And all of these things that this end is doing is the exact opposite. We have to love ourselves first.
Yes.
And if you're not loving yourself, then you don't know what love is.
Ooh.
Say it.
Ooh.
That man ain't loving you right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I I want to say tonight. Love yourselves, ladies. Love yourselves enough.
Yeah.
That when that correct man comes along, then he's going to love you enough that you'll know who he is.
You know
And
who
then
he
if he never comes along, you're
okay,
going to
come on,
have
talk.
enough love for yourself.
Woo! Now you better say that again. Yes. Thank you to Don for speaking the word tonight. Hannah G, thank you so much for the super chat. I truly appreciate you. Let me tell you something. A lot of gems got dropped. Put cameras in your car, especially single ladies. We got to protect ourselves. Everybody needs to protect themselves. But yes, put the cameras in your car. Get that mace. You know what, in my opinion, you sent me the link. Send it to me again. You know I never placed my order. Get that handheld mace. Protect yourself. Have somebody tracking you. I like that. And do you know those ear tags? I'm not techie, but you know that Apple has the ear tags. Put an ear tag in your own coat or something like that. And always tell people when you're going out with somebody has to be in your business. No, you got to. My sister's all no, who you going? Who's that? Let me see them. And now with these phones, people can always see each other. And that's letting that person know too. Somebody know I'm with you. I like these tips. I appreciate you.
And I take a selfie automatically. Like when we go to the coffee shop, I say, cheese. We do our little selfie. And I send it to my bestest girlfriend.
Come on now. I like that idea, Leo. Get you a selfie. Y'all like to take the pictures? Yes, take pictures of your dates and their license plate. Come on, Sasuke. Yes. Okay, come on, Brown Eyes. She said I do the background checks too. Protect yourselves. Ooh. Julius, your thoughts?
I'm going to say this not only to my fellow sisters, but to my fellow brothers as well, who have suffered from DV. Unfortunately, I wasn't sure what I was hearing when I was talking to a friend. Wasn't the first time. But I asked him because it was in the back of my mind. That night, we was on the phone. Was it one of those times? Was it what I heard? And he said yes. So every time I talk to him now, and when his ex is in the vicinity, he goes, wait a minute. And I know to keep my mouth shut. Because if I was to hear his ex's voice, it would have gone down. No ifs, ands, buts about it. I would have dragged him for filth and would have hurt his feelings. I'm going to keep this next part very brief. I have a sister who has gone through this. She has a baby with him. Still has to communicate with his parents. I worry about her every day. Every day. This DV, it doesn't discriminate. You could be straight. You can be gay. You can be a man or a woman and still be an abuser. Enough is enough. Even though I am 30 years old and sometimes I be getting annoyed in the moment when my mom be asking me, okay, now I just need to have your friend's number. I'm not going to call. I just need to have his number just in case. I'd be like, okay. Then I read stories about this. And I'm thankful for that. And some of the times it makes me not even want to get in a relationship. Why does love have to hurt? But at the same time, there is a thing called love bombing. The mask, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the fraud, the false prophecy. If we gonna call a thing, Satan wasn't no creature, he was an angel. If we gonna go there, we gonna go there. Same thing with these abusers. They have a mask, a role. They play it well until it starts to slip. The moment you step out there onto the carpet and call them out on their stuff, that's when you see it slip. Even if you may not want to, and whoever's listening, it's okay, even if it's minimally. And I'm pulling up my iPad so I can say this more clearly. Have people know where you are. Have a cold word, a safe word. Even if it means yippee-yi-yay, A-Town Stomp something. A code word only you and your immediate village will know. And they will realize, okay, it's go time. It is okay to do that. I say this time and time again. Come through, village. Come through.
All right, Julius. Thank you so much. She said, ladies, download Noonlight on your phone. It's a security app. I never heard of it. Okay, I got to look at that. Thank you so much for that, Sasuke. Zita, I see you came in the building. What do you want to add to this conversation?
Good evening. I apologize for the background noise. I'm running my dishwasher.
No
But
worries.
this definitely weighed on my heart because there's a lot of young ladies out here. And with the lot of men that we have right now, is real slim pickings. I want parents, yes, I understand you guys are doing your absolute best, but please allow, because imagine you have your 15-year-old daughter getting knocked upside her head, getting pushed downstairs until she loses a baby. That's crazy. And my friend has been with this man for so long, and he does so much to her, and she refuses to leave him. And she calls the police just to go back and back. And it's just disappointing. And for my own story, I never got hit, but I was in a situation where I was dating a man that was older than me, and that's a problem in itself. Ladies, we expect these grown men to, know what they're doing. They don't. They don't. They're all a mess. Please, and recognize that abuse is not just physical, okay? It is also emotional, financial, mental. Like I said, I was dating the older man. He's trying to dangle money over my head. I don't need your money, sir. I got my mom and dad. I'm okay. I don't need you.
Right.
Okay? It's just disappointing. And nowadays, these little girls also, I did it, and now I see these young girls doing it too. My students, I have a 15-year-old student in my class right now. She's dating a young guy that is 19 years old. And I'm telling her, no, this is not the man for you. And she's telling me, so, well, the age of consent in North Carolina is 16, and I turned 16 on Monday, so everything's okay. No, these men want you guys young, they want us young so they can raise us to their hand and to control you, manipulate you to do what they
Come
want.
on.
Like I said, I was in a situation just last year. I literally just got out of it. I knew he wasn't good for me. I knew he wasn't. I just kept ignoring the red flags, ignoring it. And so I said, okay, by Valentine's Day, if he didn't get it together, I'm gonna leave him. Valentine's Day comes around, he's still doing the same mess, and I'm like, okay, this is enough. I decided to leave him, Diva. When I tell you that man busted my apartment door open, I was scared for my life. I never told anybody about the issues going on. I had to call the police to get him up out of there. Well, he ran away before they could. And like Kiki, now I got the doorbell camera. I got a camera in the front entryway so I can see who's coming in. My parents already had the tracker on my phone, all of that. They had everything. But you have these overprotective parents. Yes, you think you're doing good protecting your child. You just make your child more sneaky. So it's important that you guys have these open ways of communication. That's all.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. This is a rough conversation because I think it touches all of us in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether we lived through it growing up, or we had our own personal experiences. But we got a lot of good tips here. And I do have one more story I want to share with y'all really quickly. So bear with me.
I'm a survivor. I don't think I've said that out loud. It was late 2014, early 2015 that I met my former partner. We were introduced by family members from either side. It started off very on the surface, like very much a love story. We had a lot of fun, so many similarities. He didn't live here. he actually lived in the States. So it was a lot of like back and forth visiting, which was great too. In the beginning, it was psychological and emotional. So I would say things like we'd get into a huge argument, and then I'd just be like, it's too much for me. I don't want to be in the relationship anymore. And he would literally call my phone like 100 times in a row. 100 to dial somebody's number 100 times in a row is ridiculous. Over and over and over and over and over again. And I'd start to feel like, oh my God, like I'm such a monster, this poor guy, like he wants to work it out, this and that, whatever. So the emotional and the psychological was common, and that was like maybe like for the first 2 years. And so it didn't really feel like what I'd term as abuse. When he actually came here, moved here, that's when the physical started. And that's when I started to see like, this is crazy. I realized that it was either going to be me or him, in the sense that if I didn't leave, I wouldn't be around. It was like year 3 that when the physical started, just, shoving and stuff like that. And I definitely don't want to come across as so victimized that I never defended myself. I would shove right back, and I'm in shock, like somebody you love, putting their hands on you, like, what are you doing, right? But then very quickly, it progressed into things like being choked against a wall. There was even a point where he tackled me like a football player, and he's a big guy. And I would never wish on my worst enemy the feeling of somebody's hands on your neck and looking at somebody who has proclaimed that they love you, but is literally jeopardizing your life. I never had real, sincere thoughts of truly leaving until the physical abuse began, because that's when it was my wake-up call. Yeah, it's my wake-up call. It was an entire turning point in my life. 2019 was the year that broke me, but it was also the year that blessed me with a strength that I earned. I'm grateful to say I'm in a great space right now. Very grateful to say that, because some women will never get to say that. It's a difference between literal life and death. And I would advise women to choose life. Do whatever you need to do to survive. Yeah, and be strong, but don't stay. Don't stay.
Who are you today?
Hold on one second, guys. The point she said is, don't stay. Choose life. We had a conversation today. It was a lot. But I would say, if you're in this situation, I couldn't end it better than that. Don't stay. Choose life. Choose yourself. Whatever you do, get out. I want to thank everybody for being so authentic, for feeling that it's a safe place to share your stories, because they're real live experiences. And I know it's not easy to say. It never is. And thank you, Sasuke. I appreciate you for doing that. Okay? It's never easy to tell your story. But the more you release your story, it's a healing process too. And you never know who you're helping. And I will say this, I ain't going to sit here and say, yes, I've been in situations where I saw the red flags. I got the yield sign, the stop sign, the do not pass go. I saw, they were all there. I ignored all of them. All of them. Every last one of them. To my own detriment. And so a lot of times when we have these conversations and we share our stories, we're sharing for a lot of reasons. But the biggest reason is we're hoping that we help just somebody out there to say, you know what, not me. I'm not going to do that. Some people, they're fortunate when they get out. But you saw my first story. Not only did she not get out, she called the sister over there. And I will say this a lot of times too. Be careful. Be careful when you're going to help someone. Be careful. I know somebody who I had a whole domestic violence group, so to speak, in my book club, and someone who wrote a book about it and been through it. She was there, and so was her friend. And the friend said, "What about us?" She told the story of how she was constantly called to the house to save her friend. She would come near, was bringing baseball bats, all of this stuff, risking her life.
Come on, Diva.
Okay, risking her life. And then the next day you wake up and who she back in the house with?
Okay.
Yeah, the friend said, "What about us?"
I did that too, Diva.
Come on now. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll bring up on this channel. The friend said, "What about us?" Like, we're getting tired too. You're calling us over there. We're risking our lives. And then the next thing you know, you back with them. It is dangerous to help. Dangerous. And I'm not, we wrong. We had a good conversation here. So y'all gonna know where I'm coming from. And that first story, I connected with Felicia a little bit because the sister never told her sister, "I miss you, but let me tell you what happened and what was going on." I don't think she told her sister all that when she called her over there, that it was hot on the block. And here comes this man. 3 people gone, kids are traumatized. And for what? When I tell my story,
I just want to say that man, he got his karma when he did cross over. He wasn't granted access to cross them gates. He was able to, he had to watch them 2 ladies who he victimized cross them gates, but he wasn't allowed. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. When I tell my story, I about my own personal story, I always say to people, don't get connected to things. Don't get connected to things. I don't care if you got to live in a studio apartment with your 6 kids. You got a roof over your head. Never get connected to things. I like my things, but I'm not connected to them. If you understand what I'm saying. Save yourself, choose life, get help. I want to thank y'all for being here. I'll see you next time. I know it was a heavy night, but blessings to everybody. We needed to have this conversation. Good night, everybody.
Good
I
night,
appreciate
Diva,
y'all.
and thank you for
Good
having
night,
this
Diva.
conversation.
The number is 800-799-7233. Good night, everybody.
No, Zeta, say it one more time. Say it one more time.
800-799-7233. Okay? I'll write it in the chat as well.
I appreciate you. And next time I have this conversation, I'll be prepared to put it up big on the screen before we close out. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.